Okay, I already filmed half of this and then realized I forgot to plug my mic in, so we are off to a good start. Let's go. Hi, I'm Cece and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a little while. I know my upload schedule has been super sporadic lately. Honestly, I'm just trying to balance seeing friends and having a social life and working full time and also doing YouTube, and it is not that easy. I just kind of upload when I can and when I feel like it. So if you want to know when I upload, please subscribe and hit the bell. You can also follow me on all my social medias. Those will be linked below. What actually got me thinking about this topic recently and made me want to make this video was this Pinterest board I came across. It belongs to Emma Mae Jenkins. If you don't know who Emma Mae Jenkins is, she is a pretty popular Christian influencer slash YouTuber. You might remember her from her morning routine with Jesus video that went viral a couple years ago.
I start right there when I wake up. And the moment that my eyes open, I start singing. I start singing because I can't help it. I can't help it. My God is so good.
Anyway, this video is not about her. She seems like a nice enough person. I feel like she's been made fun of enough. But seeing this Pinterest board really did get me thinking about mission trips and white saviorism and how the two are kind of inextricably linked. It also got me looking more into the whole industry of mission trips and how I think they can often do more harm than good. So this Pinterest board of hers is called Mark 16:15. If you didn't know what that verse is, because I didn't, it says this. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." And this board is basically just full of photos of cute little brown children and some of the stereotypical photos of like a white missionary hugging a little brown child, presumably somewhere in Africa. It really is like white savior complex, but make it a Pinterest aesthetic. So in a broad general sense, the term white savior or white savior complex is used to refer to white people seeking to help non-white people in a self-serving or self-centered way. The term is really rooted in the tradition of colonialism, specifically of white people evangelizing, colonizing in Africa. But this trope can also be seen in film and television. In white savior movies, for example, the white savior character is often the main character and the most dynamic character that experiences the most growth throughout the film. A classic example is the movie The Help. Now, I saw this movie years and years ago and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book too, but it is a classic of the white people solve racism genre, if you will. Emma Stone plays the white savior character. Her character Skeeter is centered in the film, and the story is also told in such a way that it seems like Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer's characters could not have possibly overcome their obstacles without her. What I want to mainly focus on in this video is mission trips and how the entire mission trip industry is almost completely dependent on the white savior complex of Western Christians. Voluntourism and mission trips have become an entire multi-million-dollar industry. There are dozens of companies that essentially function as travel agencies for mission trips. Writer Teju Cole wrote an article for The Atlantic in 2012 in which he coined the term white savior industrial complex. In this article, he talks about how and why mission trips specifically to Africa have become an entire fast-growing vacation industry, essentially. One song we hear too often is the one in which Africa serves as a backdrop for white fantasies of conquest and heroism. Africa has provided a space onto which white egos can conveniently be projected. It is a liberated space in which the usual rules do not apply. Nobody from America or Europe can go to Africa and become a godlike savior, or at the very least, have his or her emotional needs satisfied. Many have done it under the banner of making a difference. He also rightly points out that Western imperialism is to blame for a lot of the problems that are facing countries in the global South, and perhaps Americans who want to help out should take a look at their own politics and their own country's policies before they go on what is essentially an exotic vacation cloaked in altruism. I'm so sorry there's a fly in here and I don't know that I can do anything about it. If Americans want to care about Africa, maybe they should consider evaluating American foreign policy, which they already play a direct role in through elections, before they impose themselves on Africa itself. The fact of the matter is that Nigeria is one of the top 5 oil suppliers to the US, and American policy is interested first and foremost in the flow of that oil. Let us begin our activism right here, with the money-driven villainy at the heart of American foreign policy. To do this would be to give up the illusion that the sentimental need to make a difference trumps all other considerations. What innocent heroes don't always understand is that they play a useful role for people who have much more cynical motives. The white savior industrial complex is a valve for releasing the unbearable pressures that build in a system built on pillage. We can participate in the economic destruction of Haiti over long years, but when the earthquake strikes, it feels good to send $10 each to the rescue fund. I have no opposition in principle to such donations, but we must do such things only with awareness of what else is involved. If we are going to interfere in the lives of others, a little due diligence is a minimum requirement. He's so correct. Like, to think that what a struggling and destabilized country needs is for me, myself, to go there and I don't know, dig a well or whatever, is just very self-aggrandizing and shows a really shallow understanding of what the real problems are in these countries and what is causing them. I do want to point out that a lot of the people who go on these mission trips are very young, like high school or college aged. Typically, these missionaries are white, young Christian Americans who are often going with their church youth group or something like that. They've been encouraged by the adults around them to go on these trips and told that this is a positive thing that they're doing and a selfless act. All that to say that I do think the individuals going on these trips, for the most part, are well-intentioned, but intent does not equal impact, and I think that ultimately impact is a lot more important. And the truth about the impact of these mission trips is that not only are they usually not very helpful, they can actually be harmful. First of all, missionaries often do not know a lot about or take the time to learn about the local community they're volunteering in, nor do they usually take the input of the locals very much into account, which is a problem because it's honestly stupid to think that a group of outsiders from halfway across the world know more about a community's problems and needs than the community members themselves. Missionaries and the companies that put together these trips also don't usually do a great job of finding out what people's specialized skills are. For example, they'll often put missionaries to work building a house or a church, when in all likelihood there are probably community members who are far more qualified to do something like that than a bunch of 17-year-olds from the suburbs of Michigan. I actually read a few accounts of missionaries building a house who were not qualified to do so, and so after they would leave for the day, the locals would actually have to come back every evening and fix their shoddy work. Like, who is that helping? American missionaries also often equate improving and helping these communities with modernizing and Christianizing and westernizing them. This is rooted in the colonial and white supremacist idea that modern and Western and Christian is automatically better. And I understand that if you grew up in America, that is drilled into your head from birth. But that's not necessarily true. And it is possible to help communities that are experiencing things that are objectively bad, like economic instability and lack of access to food and healthcare and clean water, while still respecting their existing way of life. Also, plenty of people in the US don't have access to things like healthcare and food, so maybe we should worry about ourselves first. Another issue I have with mission trips is that many of the people who go on them, not all of them, I'm obviously making a generalization, but many of the people who go on them are conservative evangelical Christians who are politically opposed to social programs that would help poor or otherwise struggling people here in the US. Like, why are you so eager to fly halfway around the world to help people in a community you know nothing about, yet you're so unwilling to support policies like universal health care or financial support for single parents that would really demonstrably help people in your own country and your own community? Maybe it's more about the vacation for you. I don't know, I'm just saying. Mission trips are also a huge waste of money if the goal is indeed to help struggling communities. An estimated 2 million Americans travel abroad on mission trips every year. These trips cost on average anywhere between $900 and $3,200 per participant, depending on the length of the trip. Some longer term trips, we're talking 8 to 11 months, cost upward of $15,000. That is like more than a year of my rent. This money is often raised through church or youth group fundraisers. However, a 2019 study found that on average, about 82% of the funds raised go to travel costs, and only about 18% ends up being invested into the communities that are supposedly being helped. The researchers who conducted this study concluded that this money would benefit these communities a lot more if it were just given in the form of a cash donation, and the community members themselves were allowed to allocate it to whatever resources or projects they needed. Again, maybe it's more about the vacation. This breakdown of how the money is spent really goes to show that oftentimes the focus is less on helping these people in these communities and more on creating an experience for the missionaries. And finally, mission trips can actually be humiliating and demoralizing for members of the communities that they're supposedly designed to help. Like, imagine a group of strangers coming uninvited to your town or neighborhood or school and basically telling you that they're going to help you and they know better than you do what is best for your community or your family. Like, that's actually not even cool. They can also promote reliance and learned helplessness. Regular mission trips can send the message to these communities that they aren't able to meet their own needs and that white saviors are indeed needed in order for them to survive and thrive. And wealthy missionaries coming from abroad and paying to volunteer can actually take jobs away from locals and destabilize local economies. And I think the root of all these problems is that mission trips in general ultimately center the experience of the missionaries and not the people they're supposedly designed to help. As an article in The Guardian put it, the harsh truth is that voluntourism is more about the self-fulfillment of Westerners than the needs of developing nations. If you take a look at the websites of a lot of these companies that offer mission trips, the kind of language they use is very telling. It's really focused on selling the experience to the potential missionaries with little to no mention of the actual work they'll be doing or how they will be helping these people and communities. Take this company called World Race Mission Trips. Their packages cost anywhere from $15,000 to $18,000, which they encourage you to fundraise. Their website says, "We've been where you are, hungry for more, but not sure where to find it. It's why we left our comfort zones and all we knew in exchange for a journey to discover what our hearts were longing to find. We desperately wanted to live for Jesus, but didn't know what it looked like. Can you relate?" Not even a mention here of the people that these mission trips are supposedly helping. It just seems like the entire focus here is on these trips being life-changing, soul-searching journeys for the people going on them. People in communities in impoverished or developing countries are not just backdrops or accessories for white Americans' personal journeys of self-discovery, and treating them as such is dehumanizing and wrong. The rise of social media also seems to have made this self-centering worse or perhaps just more obvious. We all know the trope, and we probably all went to high school with a girl who went on a mission trip and posted 100 photos of herself hugging cute little Ugandan orphans with captions like, "I came here to help them, little did I know how much..." I just hit my mic. "I came here to help them, little did I know how much they would teach me." Doing stuff like that makes these trips seem even more self-serving. It makes it seem like the whole thing is just a photo op so they can get a pat on the back and be told what a good person they are by their friends and family back home. And once again, it really demonstrates the way in which Western missionaries often seem to view these people as just accessories to their own lives and journeys of self-actualization and Instagrams. I personally am a big believer in, like, if you're gonna do a good thing, just do it. Don't post about it or take a million photos of it. I think a lot of people who go on mission trips also have a very romanticized idea of what they will be like, as shown by Emma Mae Jenkins's Pinterest board that shows a very aesthetic, idealized version of what mission trips are like. And I think this also ties back to a video I did last year about the romanticization of poverty. There's this attitude often of, they have so little and yet they're so happy and that's so inspiring. People who are living in poverty in faraway countries, poverty that is often caused by American imperialism and wealthier Western countries destabilizing their economies, I might add. They're not just there for you to observe and pity so you can gain perspective and gratitude or whatever before you fuck off to your comfy middle class life in the US a few weeks later. I also, before I conclude this video, feel like I have to talk about Renee Bach and Gregory Dow. These are truly really horrifying, upsetting stories. So if you don't want to hear some really fucked up stuff, you should just skip to the end of the video. Also gonna put a quick content warning right here for SA. Renee Bach was a Christian missionary from Virginia. She moved to Uganda and founded a nonprofit organization called Serving His Children, dedicated to feeding malnourished children. When Bach arrived in Uganda in 2009, the area she lived in had already become somewhat of a hub for voluntourism. There were tons of American teens volunteering at clinics there, and many people think that's why her clinic was able to fly under the radar for so long. Before long, Renee Bach began providing medical treatment to Ugandan children at her clinic, despite having no medical training or even an undergraduate degree. She actually wrote blog posts detailing the treatment she provided to various children. She would perform procedures like blood transfusions, administering catheters. She would prescribe various drugs. This went on for years, and ultimately hundreds of children actually passed in her care. Renee thankfully was eventually found out, and she was sued in Ugandan civil court. A Ugandan civil rights group took up the case on behalf of two of the mothers of children who died in her care. In July of 2020, she settled her case, agreeing to pay out $9,500 to each of the mothers. This is obviously a really extreme and horrifying example, but I do think this case actually illustrates how dangerous this attitude can be. Renee's actions are rooted in that same attitude of superiority and self-importance and that self-serving need to make a difference that characterize the white savior complex. She stated that she felt called by God to go to Uganda, and that despite her complete lack of expertise or medical training, she felt that God would guide her. Renee maintains to this day that she never claimed to be a doctor or presented herself as one, but according to locals, she regularly wore a white lab coat and a stethoscope around her neck, and she became known in the community as the White Doctor. As of July 2020, Bach had moved back to her hometown in Virginia. She told The New Yorker, "I want to be in a place where I could live a life of service again. I genuinely enjoy helping people, and I feel like an idiot saying that because everyone is like, you just killed a bunch of people. I would love to live in a really low-income, diverse community, like Immersion. Just to move into a Section 8 housing community and not be completely ostracized is an art." So basically, she learned nothing at all, and her white savior complex is still very much intact. I'm like actually speechless over that quote. Like, did you learn nothing? In February of this year, another American missionary, Gregory Dow of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for SAing girls at a Kenyan orphanage. Dow founded the Dow Family Children's Home in Boydo, Kenya in 2008. He and his wife operated this orphanage for a decade, during which time he SA'd at least 4 girls as young as 11 years old. Acting U.S. Attorney Jennifer Arbiter Williams said of this case, "Under the guise of faith-based charity work benefiting orphan children, Gregory Dow traveled halfway around the world to prey on incredibly vulnerable victims. His crimes are nearly incomprehensible in their depravity." Both Renee Bach and Gregory Dow took advantage of the power imbalance at play here between themselves and vulnerable people, as well as the fact that white American missionaries are often seen as trustworthy just because of their race and their perceived educational and socioeconomic status as Americans. While these are obviously two really extreme and horrifying cases, there is no doubt in my mind that the white savior industrial complex enabled these two to get away with their crimes for as long as they did. Whew, okay, this video was a lot. I learned a lot making it. I hope that you guys learned something. My goal here is not to shit on individuals who go on mission trips because, like I said, most of them are very young and most of them, I think, do this with positive intent. But impact is a lot more important than intent, and I think when we know better, we can do better. As usual, all of my sources will be linked in the description, but probably my most helpful source for this video was the organization No White Saviors. My friend Asana actually pointed me to them when I told her I was thinking about doing this video, and they've just been a really helpful resource. They're a really cool activist organization that's based in Uganda. They are run by a team of majority African women, which is really cool, and they're basically just dedicated to exposing the kind of thing that I talked about in this video. Definitely, at the very least, follow them on Instagram if you want to learn more about this. They really don't need me to plug them. They have a bajillion followers already, but I just wanted to credit them because they were a really helpful resource here. And I believe that is all I have for this video. It's really hot in here and my AC's off, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But as always, please let me know what you think in the comment section. Give this a like or a dislike or whatever. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will catch you guys in the next one.